What's going on, guys? This is Aaron from Partridge Capital. We're here with Mark Vanry, President, CEO, and Director of Wedgemount Resources. Nice to have you back, Mark. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Aaron. Thanks for having me on again. It's been a little while for us chatting.
Yes, it definitely has. So, it's been a busy exploration season across all three Wedgemounts, copper and gold projects. Can you start by giving us an update on the company and everything that you've been up to recently?
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's been a really busy season. I think most recently, the two things to focus on are where we have ongoing exploration on our Eagle copper gold porphyry project in central BC and our Friendly Lake copper gold porphyry project in south central BC. Currently, we're on location in both projects. At Eagle, we're currently completing an IP survey, and at Friendly Lake, we're completing a LiDAR survey. So the exploration continues for us. We're very lucky, as we've told your listeners before, that we have projects in the central part, the southern part of BC, so our exploration season is a little bit longer, and we can continue as we march already towards Halloween here. We're still busy in the field.
Wedgemount recently commenced an IP geophysical survey at its Eagle copper gold project. Can you tell us more about that? I know you mentioned it briefly, but I'd love to hear some more about it.
Yeah, the IP survey there started just over a week ago. Because of fire season in BC, COVID-related delays, etc. We'd actually planned to get this done a little bit earlier, but we were still hoping we could get it in before the ground's completely covered with snow. We have been lucky over the past 7 days or so to start the survey. The goal, or the main goal of the survey is for us to get a better understanding of the copper gold target deep under the surface there. So we have a surface expression where we can map and sample. There's been some historic drilling there with some very high grade intercepts, but for us to better understand the structural context of the target, we need to do the IP. So the IP survey, the target is to get 20 line kilometers done by Halloween, when pretty much we'll have to shut down up there just due to the weather and some of the accommodations. We stay at a lodge close by, and it'll shut down by around that time, but we should be pretty good. And again, this will just enhance our ability to pick drill targets when the drilling commences. We had planned to be drilling by this time, but as I said, everything was a bit delayed this year. So chances are the drilling will start late winter or early spring up at Eagle. But we're really excited about the IP survey when we get back. It's an absolutely crucial method in which to target drilling for copper gold porphyries in the province of British Columbia.
Nice to see things are progressing. So Wedgemount recently sampled up to 14.8% copper and discovered multiple new mineralized zones at Cookie copper gold property in northern BC. So what does that mean for the company?
Yeah, there were some really sexy numbers in copper and in gold, and actually in silver as well, that we sampled up at our Cookie project over the summer. Cookie, we're currently done for the season up there. That's northern BC, so there's a fair bit of snow on the ground up there already. But I think the key takeaway for Cookie, other than the splashy number of 14.5%, we had multiple samples, over 1% copper in a variety of different zones. So if some of your listeners remember, or viewers remember, that when we first started with Cookie, it was about 2,000 hectares. We expanded through staking up to 28,000 hectares. Over the course, really, that was spring and early summer, we expanded the project when we started to see some new targets potentially developing. So at Cookie, the zone where we got the very high grade results is called Overstall. There's actually 4 completely new zones out of the historic red zone, where we discovered alteration, mineralization, and assays with copper and gold in them. So it was really exciting to get those new zones away from the core area of historic drilling. So we have multiple targets there for 2022, which will have boots on the ground probably June of 2022 on that project. That'll be more mapping, sampling. We'll get some IP geophysics and hope to get a drill in there by the end of the year. So again, by starting with a core area, staking around it, we were hoping maybe we get one area of interest in addition to this historic area, but we've actually got 4 areas with really good alteration and mineralization that'll be the focus of the 2022 program up at Cookie.
Awesome. So will you be focusing more on any one of your assets going forward?
It's still somewhat hard to say, but based on what we've been seeing on our Friendly property in southern BC over the late summer and early fall exploration season, it's highly likely that Friendly will be the focus. And there's a few reasons for this. One, you're southern BC, you get a longer exploration season. 2, the costs Cost of exploration, so therefore your bang for buck in exploration dollars is much better down there. Access, ease of access right off the main highway, two big operating mines right in the area. Those are all sort of reasons outside of the actual geology why it's probably going to become the main focus. But the bigger reason is what we've seen being on the ground there over the past several weeks, where a couple of the historic areas that have copper and gold tested in outcrop, in soils, and in drill core, the bog and RO zones, which we really weren't sure about the size or scale of these zones, because again, on Friendly, like our other projects, most of the exploration happened 20, 30, 40 years ago with very limited capital spent and no modern exploration techniques. But what we found at those areas, going back to them, is that the areas of outcrop, of mineralization, alteration are much, much bigger than was historically reported. And the beauty of what's going on at Friendly, this is an area that's seeing heavy logging in southern BC right now. So while we were up there, there was actually a lot of logging going on in the area. And pretty much every day they were putting in new road cuts. We were finding new outcrop on those new road crops, which we've sampled. All of the samples from our Friendly project are still with ALS Labs. We should get assays back starting probably in about 2 weeks. So we'll be able to talk to investors more about that. But based on what we've seen on the rocks, the alteration, the chalcopyrite, we're seeing a much larger target in the two areas that we like the best than was historically known. So again, it's the size of the prize is looking bigger. We're continuing to do work right now on our LiDAR survey. We'll get more data on that. And as soon as the snow clears in the springtime, we'll be back up at Friendly. Anyways, that's a long answer, but I think it's important to look at the different factors of Friendly. Just really great bang for buck and a target that's looking bigger and more prospective than we had historically thought when we first picked up the program, or the project rather.
Oh, that sounds great. So, what are the main catalysts that you see driving shareholder value for Wedgemount Resources in the next 6 to 12 months?
I think if we look at the next 6 months, we're still going to have we're going to have our IP survey results back from the Eagle project. Again, survey's wrapping up end of the month, so we should get some information back to investors in November. Friendly, we've got all our assays still pending and coming back. So again, we can talk about a bit more about the size and potential scale of the targets at Friendly. And then as we move into next year, that's when investors are going to start to see news on drilling, which would ultimately be the key catalyst for an exploration company going forward. At the end of the day, you need your drilling results, but the targets look great. We'll have information coming on that. And then as we move into next year again, drilling and news from all three projects, which is pretty unique for a small company like us.
Yeah, we're almost in 2022, so it should be an exciting year for you guys. So, where do you see commodity prices? I know it's impossible to predict the future, but specifically copper and gold, where do you think that we might be going into 2022? I know that gold's been bouncing off 1800 and it's so frustrating. I just personally want to see it break out, but yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think I have probably a stronger view on copper than I do on gold. As you say, gold tends to bounce around, and there's so many macro factors out there that impact gold on a day-to-day basis, as well as market participants. So gold's harder to predict, but I would say definitely on copper. Look, there's been very little capital spent to develop new projects globally since about 2014. And I think you're seeing that in a variety of areas. A lot of the big companies and some of their major and most prolific assets, you're starting to see production grades declining, overall production numbers starting to decline. And again, if there's no capital spent, which there hasn't been really great access to capital, producers are being a lot more stringent internally on financial controls, dividends, share buybacks, et cetera, rather than expanding production or buying other assets. So I think generally, the industry's been starved of capital. I think the second thing too, and we've talked about it, I think a bit before, and certainly we talk about it to other investors, is on the macro scale globally, demand for copper is very strong with the transition to the green economy around the world, but just also building of infrastructure. As multiple areas of the world are looking to grow and develop to get to the standards of sort of the more, if you want to call it, developed world, the need for infrastructure. All infrastructure needs copper, and so again, I'm pretty bullish on the demand side as well as the supply side for copper. For gold, I mean, it's really the U.S. 10-year and interest rates, which tell the story here. If I could predict that, I wouldn't be working for a living. But I think if you the Western world has taken on record amounts of debt. I don't need to tell people that. Everybody knows it, and it's going to be really hard for them, I think, in spite of some of the inflation numbers we're seeing, to really crank up interest rates. So I'm for gold, it's gonna do its thing. I can't really predict that, but I think people maybe are more worried than they should be about the macro background for gold. And one other thing I would say about gold as well, it's been the same thing as I said about copper. It's been somewhat capital starved. You're not seeing the big gold producers in the world bringing on a bunch of new projects and really ramping up production. So I think the supply side will continue to be constrained for those two commodities, as it will for many other commodities around the world.
All right, so where should investors go for more information about the company?
You can go to our, for more information on Wedgemount, you can go to our website, www.wedgemountresources.com, or you can go to YouTube and search the company. There's a bunch of interviews of myself and some other articles on the company. We're also on Twitter. Search Wedgemount Resources on Twitter. We've got a really good Twitter feed, which keeps investors up to date on all the news about the company and other stories about macro, copper, gold, etc. So you can get us through a variety of means, but at the end of the day, the old Google search will generally take you in the right direction.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Mark. It was a pleasure, and best of luck with everything. I know you guys have been working hard, so hopefully, 2022 is a very successful year for you guys.
Well, we're really excited, and we got 3 interesting projects, and we're working as hard as we possibly can on them. They're all looking as prospective as they've ever been. So we can't wait for getting back out in the field here in early 2022.
Great to hear it. Look forward to covering it.
Thanks, Aaron.
If you like these videos, kindly hit that subscribe button and the bell for notifications. Drop us a comment down below. We'd love to hear from you. And finally, always remember, Departures Capital is for information, education, and entertainment purposes only. Don't buy or sell a stock because you heard it on here. Buy or sell a stock because you've done your research, you've done your thorough due diligence, and you're making your own personal investment decisions for yourself. This video is not financial advice. Furthermore, this video may or may not have been sponsored by the companies that we've profiled within this video, and we may or may not own shares of any of the profiled companies in this video. If you want to know the full disclosure details, check the description down below, along with thoroughly reading our disclaimer. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video.